Okay, P-Stats, today we're going to talk through using the calculator to calculate the intervals for confidence intervals, and then the test statistic and the p-value for our hypothesis test. So the first thing you want to do is get your calculator out, and then you want to go to Stats, Tests, and then you'll see here your list of interval and tests. And then what I did here was write all these out for you, so you can see exactly what they are. So what we are doing is we are never using number 1. And number 2, that's our one sample mean t-test. Number 5, that's our one sample proportion z-test. Number 8 is our one sample mean t-interval. And letter A is our one sample proportion z-interval. So those are the 4 things that we've learned so far. So those are the 4 that we're going to use. Okay, so this first one is a one sample mean t-test, and this is number 2 from up above there. This is number 2. And it can come to you in 2 ways. You either have the data or you have the statistics. The data would be when you put things into a list. You have a list of data. Statistics is if you have X bar and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do here is we're going to define what some of these things are. So here, this is the null from your hypothesis. Okay? So this is the null hypothesis here, and that is the value you put in there. And then right here, on each of them, is your sign in your alternative. Okay, so those are the same on both of them. Now, if you have actual data, you're going to put it into list 1, and your frequency will always be 1. And then you go down to calculate, and it'll calculate it for you. You go to draw, it'll draw it for you. And then if you have summary statistics, you're going to have your X bar, your standard deviation, and your N, and you're going to enter each of those in. What you will get out of this is the test statistic and the p-value, and you don't have to use all the formulas. Okay, now let's look at the intervals. Okay, so the intervals here, one sample mean t interval, this would be number 8. Okay, so these here are number 8 above, one sample mean t interval, and again, it's whether you have the data or you have the statistics. Same concept. Your lists are going to go in L1 if you have data, or you're going to enter in the summary statistics if that's what you have. You put in your confidence level. You can enter 0.95 or 95 for 95%, doesn't matter, and calculate. And that'll just give you the interval. Very simple. Okay, proportions. So those were both means. Moving on to proportions. One sample proportion z interval. This is A. This is your interval. And then one sample proportion z test. This is number 5. Okay, so what you're going to enter here, it sometimes can be a little bit tricky for people. So you need to make sure that you pay attention to how you enter this in. So what you don't enter here is p hat. Okay? X over n is what gives you your p hat. The calculator wants to calculate that for you. So if you're given p hat and you're given n, you need to figure out what that x value is, which I'll show you on the example that we do. Okay, so again, same thing here, that x over n is your p hat. Sometimes you're just given that. Sometimes you actually have to calculate it on your own. And then x always has to be a whole number, or else you'll get an error. And then for the test over here, you have your null, and you have your alternative. And then for confidence, all you enter in is those 2 things that create your p hat and your confidence level, and it'll do it all for you. Okay, so we're going to do one example together. So we're going to do number 1 here. Suppose that a poll of 1,000 adults, so that's our n. I'm going to go ahead and write n as 1,000, Find that 46% of people believe that marijuana should be legalized. So this is my p hat. A is to create a 95% interval, and B is to run a test. Okay, so starting with A, we are going to create a confidence interval. So what I'm going to do here is pull up my calculator. And stat, tests, and we are looking for a 1 sample proportion Z interval. Okay, so that is written as a 1 prop Z int. 1 prop, oh, I'll flip back around. Where is it? Okay, that's letter A. So letter A is 1 prop Z int. Okay, so we're going to go into that. And we have to enter in an X value. Again, remember that an X value is what makes your p hat. Okay, so we have X over N gives us our p hat. In this case, we weren't given the X. We need to find it. So we have X over 1,000 gives us our 0.46. So 0.46 times 1,000 gives us that X is equal to 460. So in our calculator here, we're going to enter in 460. Oops. Out of our N is 1,000. Our confidence level here is 95. Calculate. There's our interval. And it actually gives us the p hat there, so you can double check and make sure that you calculated that correctly. So our interval here is 42.9% to 49%. So then, of course, you can write your conclusion and all of that. But right now, I just want to show you how to use the calculator. Okay, part B. Studies show that less than 50% of all U.S. adults believe in the legalization. Is there evidence to support this claim? So we need our null and alternative. Our alternative, what we think is happening is we think that the proportion P is less than 50%. So our alternative is that it's equal to 50%. Okay, so we're going to find this in our calculator. So we're going to go back to stat, tests, and I hit enter on accident, so let's try again, stat, tests, and then we're going to go down to a 1 prop Z test, which is 5. And then the nice thing about the calculator is that it carries your data over for you. So the 460 should still be there, the N should still be there. Our P from our hypothesis is 0.5, so I'm going to put in 0.5. Our alternative is less than, so I'm going to go to that middle one that's less than. I'm going to go to calculate, and I get a Z of negative 2.53 and a p-value of 0.0057. So I'm going to write those down. And then, of course, I can draw my conclusions and such based on that. So what I want from you now is to do number 2 on your own. This is the same data that we did in example 2 when we first did mean testing. But I want you to create the interval in A and find the p-value and the t-test statistic in B. You don't have to perform the whole test, just get used to using the calculator. And we'll talk about it tomorrow. Have a great day.